Hello, everyone, and welcome to First Canada Alumni Corner, an exciting and informative series of virtual coffee chat style information sessions and workshops presented by accomplished alum of the First Robotics community. This program is designed to empower current students as well as alumni with the knowledge, skills, and insights they need to succeed in their transition from being team members to being part of the incredible First Canada Alumni Network and succeed within it. I'm your host, Jaylene Kostrzelski, fellow First Canada alum and volunteer and alumni manager here at First Canada. Today, our topic is admissions to Canadian universities, and we're going to cover things like finding the right school, choosing the right program or major, navigating the admissions process, making sure that we're on for the right timelines and deadlines, and then, of course, leveraging the First Canada Alumni Network. Now I'd like to welcome today's guests. We have Alexandra Miller. Take it away.
Hello. I am in my second year of university at McMaster in the Health Sciences program. I am an FTC alum, so I was the captain of an FTC team 18846 robotics for 3 years, so grades 10 through 12. I'm also Youth Council alumni, so a little plug to the Youth Council. Please apply when applications come out, and if you're on the Youth Council, you know how amazing it is. I'm also 2 times Dean's List finalist for FTC, which was really exciting. I'm from Toronto, and I'm also, a little fun fact, a Team Ontario athlete. Not anymore, now that I'm in university, but in high school, I played Team Ontario beach volleyball for 3 years. So,
Wow, that's
yeah.
sorry, my dog literally just opened the door to come in. That
You're
is
good.
so exciting. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing about this topic. You're a second year student at McMaster, so share all the things you learn about the admissions process for Canadian universities.
Yeah. Alrighty, I can get started by showing a little presentation. So let me see if I can just get this up and running. There we go. Okay. So yeah, that was just a little bit about me. And then here I have basically kind of my pathway of what or a typical pathway someone may take to kind of getting to applying to a university. So first you might start off with some career ideas. Then you might do a little more research into finding like the major or program that associates with your career idea. And then that's kind of a very back and forth process. So the more you research, you might see more career ideas. And so you'll keep kind of cycling through. Eventually, you'll get to a point where you found a program or degree that you want, and then you're starting to look at programs and degrees for specific universities. So then from there, like I might search up, oh, Bachelor's of Engineering at McMaster University or Bachelor of Arts at like York University. So and then that can also come back to career ideas as you see more things. A lot of university websites have super helpful like information and alumni that are even features. So you can even see like what careers the alumni are doing or even more information about programs that might lead you to more niche programs and so on. So it's kind of a big cycle. But typically this is kind of what it looks like. And then after you find out your universities and your programs, you can start to apply. So career ideas, a lot of people, so some people like myself, I had a pretty good idea of the career I wanted going into university, but there are a lot of people that are kind of starting from zero. They have their interests, they have their dislikes, and they don't really know where to go from there. So my kind of breakdown, since I was also deciding between a couple of career options, is that I kind of looked at some of the subjects that I wanted to study in university or things that I was interested in. So I was interested in things like anatomy, chemistry, and math, and some subjects that I didn't enjoy as much were English, art, history. And this is totally different for so many people. Like have a lot of friends in my program that are super interested in English, and I have a lot of people that are interested in like social sciences, linguistics, all sorts of things. And something I'll talk about a little bit later is that even after you choose a degree, you can still specialize in certain areas. So if I wanted to go into engineering, but I wanted to focus on history, for example, I could get a minor in history or a certificate in history as well. Some other things that I considered, or you should consider maybe when thinking about your future career, is the type of work environment you want to be in. So this could be a desk job. This could be you want to have daily interactions with people. It could be something in a more teamwork setting, something in like an individual setting. And then the last thing, and it's honestly a very minor thing because um, a lot of the times with your degree, you won't be fully exposed to all of the career options from the beginning, but salary is something to take into consideration. So this is kind of like what type of life would you like to live? And then the financial situation, what could complement that type of life you want to live. And so this can be considered, but honestly, sometimes it's better to just leave it out because no matter what degree you get, you're going to find jobs in that area. You're going to find a way to get to the financial kind of situation you want. But if you just want to think of that kind of in like the back of your mind, that is one good thing to think about when moving forward and just brainstorming initially. Um, so here I just have a little bit of career ideas. So I kind of categorized it into five main subjects that you see people take from from high school. This is really not all encompassing. So there are so many other programs and a lot of niche ones that are coming out as universities start to specialize in like their preferred subject area. For example, like Waterloo has a very engineering focus. That doesn't mean like they have a lot of non-engineering programs that are amazing, but as they get more interest in the faculty of engineering, they come up with new engineering like subcategories, which is always interesting to see. So I kind of highlighted what I was thinking about when going through each of these topics. So in like a health standpoint, I was thinking of like a pre-med program. In the sciences, I was kind of focused on like biochemistry, math, wasn't really into physics that much. But engineering, I wanted to do, if I was going to do it, I wanted to do bioengineering or biomedical engineering or computer science, something like software engineering or coding related. For social sciences, I was interested in psychology, and for business, I was interested in kind of a finance area. From there, after like mapping something out like this, you can kind of see like which ones you're gravitating more towards. Like, for example, I can kind of cross off some of them. So maybe like I'd actually prefer to do biochemistry over finance. So then I'd kind of like cross off that
Mhm.
area and start to explore something a little more in the sciences area. A lot of good things about the programs that are available at undergrads now is that specialization doesn't come until your second, third, even fourth year. For actually, my program has some specializations you can only take in fourth year, which is great because you can go into something like engineering, which, hey, I'm interested in that just from like doing first robotics, but I don't
Mhm.
really know what I want to do. Maybe I'm actually really interested in chemistry, and then bam, like chemical engineer. So there's kind of things like that. And that's why doing a lot of research on the different types of programs and seeing what's out there, because there are a lot of ones that kind of fall beneath the cracks that end up being like really cool, interesting programs that you won't really find at certain universities. So yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
Alexandra, I just, sorry, just wanted to interrupt you
yeah,
for a second. I
no
love
worries.
that you kind of took what you like in the last slide and just spread it out almost across all the
Yeah,
potentials that kind of link all those things. And you can have a focus on engineering or on the sciences, but then work in health or all these different industries. And there's a lot of overlap between where that can start in your first year of undergrad or even within your last year of grade 12, like in grade 12, and navigate towards there and specialize as you continue through school. So I love that you kind of spread it out, and then you have, instead of just one, I like science, you have
yeah.
like a bunch of different opportunities there and jobs, and you can do more research and find that. So that's a fantastic way of kind of spreading it out and seeing what the opportunities are out there. Love that.
Yeah, and just to add on, like a lot of programs might seem as like the stereotypical starting point to go to a certain career. Like for example, if I wanted to be like a chemical engineer in the future, you'd start with like a chemical engineering degree. But
Mhm.
that's not always how it works out. So like for example, in my program with health sciences, the typical notion is that everyone in health sciences at McMaster goes to med. But it ends up being only like 50% of them go to med. And we actually have like almost 35% of them going into like law school, which is a really cool thing. So
Okay.
you can kind of like go into something you enjoy, like if I enjoyed English, and then from there, like go into a career that's related, but kind of like not the stereotypical route from that program as
Mhm.
well. So that's why mapping out something like this is really cool. And then you can start to see from here what minors does the university offer, what certificates, what interesting courses does it offer. For example, if I'm in like a biochemistry program, but I wanted to take a finance course in business, like do they have something I'm interested in? And those are all good things to look at when deciding, which is later on in the timeline, but just things to think about when you want to apply. So now we just have getting, after you kind of brainstorm some of your career ideas, I kind of did on the last slide as well, but you're just going to start brainstorming your program ideas. So in on Canadian universities, you mostly get kind of one of 3 or 4 bachelors. So this could be a Bachelor of Science, a Bachelor of Engineering, and a Bachelor of Arts. From there, sometimes universities will have subspecialties of those. So
Mhm.
you could have a Bachelor of Engineering, as we said, like in chemical engineering, or you could have a Bachelor of Engineering in software development, like something like that. Bachelor of Arts in psychology. All of that stuff. And I found what the like most useful thing I got from my guidance counselors was this link to the Ontario University's info website. So I'm actually just going to go over to it right now. And yeah, so from here, they have a search bar right here, and you can search up whatever you want. So I could search in like medical, and then it would take me to a bunch of programs that are kind of related. So biomedical science, medical sciences, biomedical biology. But what I honestly found it really helpful for is if we go down, you can see you can go to programs, you can browse all programs. You can browse by category and browse by university. I used browse by university a lot because if we go back to the slide, you can see that you can only apply to 3 programs per university. That includes backups, first choices, anything of the sort like that. So making sure you kind of explore the options at the university you're applying to without kind of like containing yourself to a bunch of the same sort of program is really and like helpful to know. So going here and you can go. So they have all of the universities in Ontario. I focused most of this presentation on Ontario because I didn't actually apply to any other universities outside of Ontario. If you are looking to apply to universities outside of Ontario, I would recommend going to the university website first. They have a lot of um, resources. For example, if I wanted to go to UBC, they have resources on um, like how to get in from outside of the province. And I would kind of do that unless you are exclusively applying to all BC universities. I would do it more on a university by university basis because they do differentiate rather than if I was living in BC, I wouldn't really want to go to OUAC and look at the deadlines for like the Ontario University application cycle because that's not helpful because those deadlines are not the same as the ones you're going to get
Mhm.
when applying out of province. So that's just one thing to note. But yeah, so if we go into, we can go to any of these universities. So University of Guelph, it says the number of programs there, and then let's just go into programs. And so that's not what I meant to do. They basically have a list of all of the programs. Let me see where that is actually.
I thought I
Browse all
saw,
programs.
yeah, there we
Yeah,
go.
there we
Yeah.
go. Okay, perfect. So now here it is. So animal biology, and then honestly, it goes all the way down the list. But what I love about it is that you can go click this little compare button. And then from
Oh.
here, you can press compare. And let's say I wanted to do that with like a Bachelor of Creative Arts and Wellness. And then once you go into your compare tab, you're actually going to be able to see them side by side. So let me find that. It's been a little while since I've used this website actually. Um,
Not jumping out for me either.
I know. I definitely know there's a way. Oh, that's not it.
And while you're looking for that, just to add, I did a little bit of research on some of the other provinces just before our call.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks as though most provinces have a similar website to the Ontario website.
Yeah,
So I think in BC it's called Post-Secondary BC. And in that space, it would be similar. But again, because you're out of province, make sure you're checking in with that specific university and utilizing your guidance counselors to navigate that because it will look a little bit different because you're an out of province student.
exactly. And so it was actually
There
fully right on the right here, right next to where we clicked.
we
So
go.
that's my fault,
It's
but here it
okay.
is. Let's just show my comparisons. And then it'll basically compare these. So one of the most helpful things is that it has a grade range. And it'll also, I don't know if Guelph fully has it, but for some of the faculties and programs for a lot of universities, it'll say the number of people they take in the program. So for example, my program only admits like 260 to like 240 around that. And it'll say that. So you can look like when you have something that just says like 85 to 90%, you still don't know how many people they're admitting. And sometimes you can You can do it by like prerequisites as
Oh,
well, which
really?
is this is so helpful because then you can go into, hey, I need to be taking English, I need to be taking advanced functions, and I need to be taking two of biology, chemistry, and physics, as well as this. And so honestly, this is a really hardcore like yeah, I was gonna
Jeez.
say this is a really hard list of prerequisites. A lot of them won't be like this. Most
Mhm.
of them will always include English, and then
Yeah.
it'll be like top 6 courses. So the way it
Mhm.
works for a lot of when applying on OUAC is that you are submitting your top 6 scores to university, including these requirements. So from here, it would be my English mark, my advanced functions mark, my top 2 of these. So you don't really get to choose what you want to submit. They just take your top 2, and then 2 additional for your M courses. If you're not in grade 12 and aren't already in your application cycle, something I like encourage you to think about is how you can get your additional 4-year M courses to be higher marks, because a
Mhm.
lot of actually the majority, almost like 80% of the programs in Ontario have no supplementary application. So that means they're very much straight up looking at your school and your grades, and that's about it. So when they're looking at your grades, on this kind of, it's a little bit of a bias scale depending on the school, and but one thing I would strongly take advantage of is summer school and looking at some courses that are easier to get that you're really interested in and to get like a higher grade in. So, for example, I took kinesiology because I was really interested in anatomy, and I took that over the summer. And then I was
Oh,
able to
cool.
score like a super high mark in the course. And you want this to be in all of your top 6s. So, no matter what school I applied to, every single school saw my kinesiology mark. And so that's just one thing to keep in mind, because sometimes they won't even see the courses that you add in because we don't really know what goes on behind the scenes, but they will see your
Mhm.
average. And a lot of the times it's just like, hey, if this person has like over 90%, we're admitting them to this program. So a lot of it works like that. So just be aware of that and make sure you're just,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just to add to that, keep in mind that
Hmm.
like this animal biology that we're looking at is very tough to get into,
Yeah.
but looking at what classes you need, making sure that your either current semester or next semester aligns with that to make sure that you can actually do the application. And then as you were saying, Alexandra, like doing a course that you know you can either get a good grade in or that's just interesting to you. I had a friend that she was really into sciences and maths, and now she's an optometrist, and
Mhm.
she always took an art class every semester or every year of school because it was something she really enjoyed. She could get a good grade. Not that you need the good grade to enjoy a class, but especially in your grade 12 year when you're pushing to make sure that you can get into these university programs, or these college programs, you want to make sure that there's a little bit of an elevation there, but just enjoying part of your schooling. Like if physics and chemistry and advanced functions, I know I had one of those semesters where it's like all of the
Yeah.
tough classes in one. You need that arts class or that drama class or music or whatever it is that's just more of a relaxed and fun instead of just really intense and academic in that way. So it's good to have that balance even just in your semesters in general. So
Yeah,
yeah, make sure you're
exactly.
looking.
And make sure like also utilize your guidance counselors. Sometimes it may seem like, oh, like my guidance counselor is so useless, but they really do so many things behind the scenes that you don't really realize, especially if they have presentations like this one. I also going into one of the presentations, I was like, oh, like they're not going to teach me anything new. It's all going to be like general, blah, blah, blah. And then I found this like amazing website that I never would have found. I never would have known how to use the compare feature. I never would have known how to do any of this. And like this website honestly saved me during application cycle. Another thing you can see on the website is these little codes that kind of are just gibberish. But when you apply on OUAC, you need to put in this code. And so I can't open my OUAC since I don't have my OEN anymore. But basically, instead of browsing through the like list of programs that goes on, and sometimes their control F is not that great. But just like typing in this code and then adding that to your list of applied programs is really helpful as well. But just to get away from animal biology, because it's a little scary, we can see down here that this one is literally you only need English, and the rest of it is just your top 5 additional 4U or M courses. Just a little bit of pay attention to the 4M and 4U. I know a lot of my friends didn't really pay attention and took kind of things like gym and physical activity and things that are not under like a university or like advanced course that sometimes I'm like, oh, it's a kind of like a bird course. I can go into this and like get a good mark in it. This is great. they actually don't count. So one of my gym courses was like PPF to UO or something. And like when it says O at the
Okay.
end, you really can't, you're not able to use this for your grade 12 courses. So that's just something to keep in mind when choosing your courses for high school as well. And yes, so you
Yeah.
can do this for all of the universities you want to apply to. You can browse by category, as we said. And we can just even go into that if we want to as well. And just like you can see architecture right here. So it
Oh.
says like 27 programs in the following areas. And they'll have so many like things on it. We didn't go through it all, but if you want to just explore this website for even like 30 minutes, you'll find like amazing things. And it'll say, especially for Waterloo, it says things like co-op and it says like what you can
Mm.
go into. Sometimes there's different streams of programs. So co-op and no co-op is like a standard one, but they also have like internship or like research. So just looking at
Okay.
that and it's all in one place. So and it's all accurate. So
Love
yes,
this.
this is an amazing website to use if you didn't hear about it already. But
So
just wanted
ouinfo.com.ca.
Yes, ouinfo.ca. And then from there, you
.ca.
can just kind of explore. They
Okay.
have finances, they have a lot of stuff about applications as well. I really utilize the university portion
Yeah.
the most, but they definitely do have other resources if you wanted to look into that as well. Um, so yes, just coming back here. And so only applying to 3 programs for university means that just like if I wanted to apply to engineering and like sub-specific things under engineering, but I also wanted to apply to arts, you just have to keep in mind that they really only like it's a cap. It's not like, oh, like this program is kind of related to engineering, so it all goes under one. Like, no, it counts as one, two, three. This is really a struggle when you find a university that you like and you want to apply to as many as possible. What I'd recommend is really if I fell in love with McMaster and I wanted to go there for sure, then make sure that the last program you pick, or because you have to order them on OUAC, the last one that you pick is one that you know for sure you're going to get into. So even if, so like for example, if I wanted to go into like health science is really bad, but that's a tough program to get into, I'd choose something a lot simpler that I kind of knew based on my grades, based on my activities, based on everything that I knew I could get into, just so that I could be at McMaster. And so making sure you kind of take care of that and be honest with yourself. I know a lot of people that thought they had like backups in place, but then the backups fell through and it's
Mm.
like, so just make sure that you're kind of keeping in mind like and being realistic about what programs you're going to get into and whatnot. And you can always apply to just like one that's like really off topic. And another thing is
Yeah.
people don't realize it's so much easier to transfer into programs once you're at a university. So if I love McMaster, but I don't really like the program I'm in, and it's one of like the easier ones that I got into, but I wanted to transfer next year and second year to go into like a different program, even if it was like a stereotypically harder program to get into out of high school, it's a lot easier once you're internally inside McMaster, and they have
Mhm.
really good resources at every university to help you do that. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think to that point of like diversifying your choices within a
Hmm.
school, the other point too is you could completely change your mind between the deadline and when you like have to submit and say, yes, I accept this app this school and this program. So diversifying in that aspect is is super good too. So if you're really interested, like you had mentioned, you're super into history or you're super into arts, and but you're also super into engineering, it's okay to apply to different programs. You can always change later. Totally can. I did it. I changed from engineering to science. So many people change programs. I know like it seems like there's a lot of pressure right now to make that decision, but diversifying your options now means that you give yourself more time to make that initial decision, but it's not the last one. You're not stuck
Yes.
in that career, in that program for the rest of your life. It's okay. You can transition and navigate what that looks like for you as an individual and your unique experience. So make sure that you kind of give yourself some options and you can kind of navigate that as you go. Because you might learn that you really don't like engineering like I did. I find it super fascinating, but it wasn't for me. And that's okay. So I transitioned into a program that felt more aligned for myself and my interests and what career I wanted. And that was not going to finish in the engineering program. So
Yeah.
totally okay to do that. Very normal.
Exactly. And one thing to note, like I am saying, like, oh, if I want to go to this university, apply to 3. it does cost money to apply to each program, and financial situation is definitely something you want to factor in when deciding
Mhm.
your programs. There are scholarships out there for sure that OUX supplies, that Ontario University supply, that can kind of cover this cost. And you can also reach out to the university directly, saying like, hey, I kind of wanted to apply to more than like to 3 programs, but I don't really have like the financial situation to do this, and they can help you out through that as well. And just keep in mind, like, even though if you want to, like, if going back to like the history and engineering example, you can apply to like Bachelor of History and like Bachelor of Engineering. But if you kind of wanted something like in between, but you're not really going to pick, like, if I chose like something like art history or something, and I'm not really interested, but I still wanted that program. If that doesn't really like, if applying to that many programs isn't really aligning with like your financial goal for like spending on what you wanted to spend for like application, don't apply to it. If it's kind of one of those programs that you're like, oh, I'm kind of never going to go to, but I'm just going to put it there, like, just in case, like,
Yeah.
don't do that. You're just kind of wasting your money. In the end, I applied to way too many programs. And I honestly did not need to do it at all. I was kind of the mindset as well. It's very great to apply to as many as you can. And then like you save the pressure and then can select later, but at the same time, try to narrow it down just a little bit so that you're saving a little bit of money because it actually is really expensive to apply to them. And then just moving on. So after you kind of find a program that interests you, you're going to want to do some more in-depth research. So this will look like looking at the university program websites. So we did see like on the OU Info website that they have kind of a little blurb. You're actually going to want to go into, sometimes they have it linked, but the actual program website. So normally universities will have a kind of a program page for each of their programs, and then you can see what kind of things the program offers, what experiences you get, what type of courses you're going to take, which is really important to look at like what you're interested in and all of that. Then you can go to open houses and university fairs. Sometimes they'll come to your school, sometimes they'll just be like all throughout Ontario. So keep an eye out for those. Your guidance counselor should definitely have like a little resource where you can see all of those as well. And then reach out to your connections. So, especially as a first student, you have so many connections to like a lot of team members, coaches, mentors, all of that stuff. So, if one of them went to like a university you were interested in, but you weren't really sure, like, let's say about like what the food was like, that's something to definitely like reach out to someone on your team or anyone you can meet at like first or anywhere else, honestly, about what's like, what is it like? How would I like it? How did you find it? Whatever. And a lot of people, once they go through it, they can give a lot more detailed examples than someone like
Mhm.
someone who has a role of like admissions committee at the university. They'll tend to give more generic answers, and a lot of it is promotional, obviously. So just be aware of that when you're reaching out to them, and try to reach out to personal connections as well, just to get the whole picture.
Yeah,
But
just
yes.
gonna plug here, we have
Mhm.
another alumni corner coming up. Admissions to American universities. Well, we'll cover similar topics, but for American universities. And then we'll also have one on scholarships coming up. So if you have specific university questions, when you sign up for that one, you can put them in there, and we'll try to do our best within the alumni community to also answer some of those questions, or have a special guest that maybe is from that school, or try to connect you within the community. So this is definitely a huge resource that's available to you as you graduate from one of our programs. So leverage it, because there's so many of us.
Yeah. For sure. I definitely used it a lot, especially when going to like FTC events in my last year of competition and just like seeing a referee that's an alumni. And then you
Mhm.
find out they're in like a program you're interested in, and you just like start connecting. And like
Yeah.
honestly, all it takes is a little hi, like, what program are you in? And there,
Mhm.
from there, you just like it all unfurls. So I definitely would recommend talking to people at events. They're all there to help you with whatever questions you have. So yeah. Moving on. Um, I think there's a little. Okay. So now we're going to get into more of like choosing university. So I kind of structured it in a way of like choosing your program first and then choosing a university, but some people are completely flipped. Like they choose a university first and then they look at the programs they want to be at, which is totally like one of the ways to do it, especially considering all of the things and more that I've listed here. So academic strengths is a big thing. What is the university known for? Like what are they, what is their what resources they have to offer you. For example, Waterloo for engineering has an insane co-op stream. So they have connections everywhere and they've established this over the years. And that's something you'd want to look at if you're interested in like the co-op stream of like an engineering program. U of T has an insane like medical research field or kind of huge research field all across the board. I know they just won like a Nobel
Mhm.
Prize in physics or something like that.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's really cool. Yeah. So, and they like you can look at professors as well and see like what
Hmm.
awards are they
Okay,
winning?
that's interesting.
Like the like the Nobel Prize, like what
Yeah.
awards are they winning? Where are their strengths? And so that's definitely something I didn't utilize that much, but I should have because I didn't realize going in that like McMaster has a huge research base on campus. They have like cadaver labs and like other interesting resources that I didn't know existed. So researching your programs beforehand is really, really helpful. And honestly, like if the deadline's so tough. It's like right after Christmas break, you're getting kind of into like m- final exam season, final project season. But if you apply to the programs that you kind of like have a good general idea about it, and then you start researching, you have a lot of time until June when you can kind of look at a lot more
Mhm.
about your university and your programs. The next thing, like, how far away do you want to be from home? McMaster for me was only an hour from home. That meant I could go home every weekend, and I loved it because I love seeing my family. And then that can be advantageous for things like laundry, cleaning, food, and stuff like that. Love my parents. But so otherwise, like living at home could be an option too. I know so many people that go to McMaster and live at home, like in Toronto, or they go to Waterloo and they live like somewhere nearby
Mhm.
and commuting back and forth. So that's something you just want to consider whether you want to stay on residence, whether you want to live like away, and how that would factor into your university experience. Finances is a big one. Looking at, do they offer scholarships? Do they offer a lot of scholarships? Do they offer a little? Do they offer a diverse number of scholarships? A lot of universities can say, hey, we offer 20,000 scholarships. And then when you kind of look through them or like go through their filters and that's like, oh, I can only apply to two. Like that kind
Mhm.
of thing is something you want to look for before deciding as well. How much is tuition? This is very diverse across all of the universities in Ontario, and it's diverse by program, which a lot of people don't realize.
Yes.
For example, the engineering program at McMaster is almost like double to triple the times
Mhm.
of money as my program. So looking into that,
Wow.
how much it costs, it's for a different reason, and they all like most of the universities are transparent about like where all of that funding is going into. But
Mhm.
yeah, keeping an eye out because when you search up something on Google, like average tuition of McMaster University, you're gonna get something in the middle and like around, for example, like if it was like 15,000, and like you could have a sciences program that's like 7,000, and then you could have an engineering program that's like almost 30,000. So just
Yeah.
being aware that like Google for general tuition amounts is really not recommended, and I'd go into like specific programs and see that.
Yeah, and
Campus
on the
and
scholarships
mhm,
piece, make sure you check out the First Canada and the First Scholarships at
yes,
schools,
for
especially in
sure.
Ontario. But First Inspires also has some that are available for Canadians, and then First Canada, and we'll release these on our scholarships episode in I believe it'll be in November. But make sure you check those out because there's so many opportunities there for lots of different people. So make sure to look at those because you
Yeah,
definitely, if you're watching this, you
yeah.
definitely qualify for one of them,
Oh,
at least to
100%.
apply. Yeah.
100%. And then statistically, there's like a huge statistic of like a bajillion dollars doesn't get used every year because of scholarship funding. And
Exactly.
so
And
like
we'll
go
talk about
into,
that on
yeah,
that episode. So
yeah.
make sure you come
So
check it out.
for sure. And so another thing, campus environment. So U of T, for example, is in downtown Toronto. So you're gonna have a campus that's kind of separated by like Queen and King and like all of like the downtown buildings and whatever. So if that's an environment you like, you want to be in the middle of the city, great. If you want to be at a more clustered campus, like University of Waterloo is kind of all together, McMaster is pretty much all together. So looking at those types of things, um, like has a huge impact. A lot of people don't realize like how much that kind of impacts how you perceive and how you like go about university. So talking to upper years for how they like the environment is something to really consider. Food, dining halls and meal plans. Not every university has a dining hall. McMaster is kind of like a food court style. I did not know that going in. I just assumed I like toured Western for a little bit after volleyball camp. And I was like, oh, everything's just like Western. You go in, you like swipe your card, and then you get like as much food as you want. Nope. McMaster's like, "Oh, hey, I want like an egg sandwich from Tim Hortons," and then you're kind of paying like that. And seeing the type of depending on like dietary restrictions, that's definitely something to look into for food and all of that stuff. And then lastly, just like extracurricular opportunities. So this could be clubs, and try to look for specific clubs because a lot of them will give a number of like, hey, we have 500 clubs, which is not really useful. But if you look into, hey, I'm super interested in like volunteering to do like an arts program, like they'll have a club for that. So looking into those types of things is good. Sports, if you're interested in that, research, co-op opportunities, all of that stuff, things to look into.
And the
So
First
now
Canada alumni clubs, they're popping
oh,
up.
yes. Yes. And so here we go, using your first robotics connection. So we mentioned this a little bit
Mhm.
already, but going to tournaments. So if all, assuming most of you guys are still in high school, not alumni yet, even if you are alumni, volunteering at events and still establishing connections is amazing. But if you're still in high school and you're still going to tournaments, do reach out to whoever is there. Like even like it takes a 5-minute chat to learn something new, and you'll just keep learning things as you talk to more and more people. And so go to events, go to tournaments, talk to teammates, talk to mentors, talk to coaches, and everyone else at in first you can find. This can also be online platforms like alumni groups, looking at like our LinkedIn alumni group or kind of connecting with people that you say, hey, on LinkedIn, like it says they were part of First Robotics and just sending them a message. Everyone in the first community is super duper open to helping anyone with like whatever issues you have, and or inquiries about the university and everything. Everyone wants everyone to succeed, so feel free to just reach out. I know sometimes it can be a little scary, but just do it. It helps so, so much. Hey, if you ever have any questions about McMaster Health Science, McMaster, a lot of like that area, I know a bunch about like engineering at Waterloo too. Feel free to reach out to me, and I will definitely like answer any questions you have. So just going on, timelines and deadlines. Little scary part, but it's better to just have them all, put them in a spreadsheet, put them somewhere, get them off the OUAC website. Um, I did get all of these off the OUAC website, but I would double check if I was you, just in case I made a typo or anything. So getting your OUAC code, it's called your OEN, I believe. In my year, at least, codes were given the alphabetically by school name, and you cannot apply to any universities until you have your OEN. So my school started with a W, and so we were like at the very, very end. So um, everyone was already applying and getting into programs because as like I'll talk about it in point number two, but people were getting into programs before I even had my OEN. People were accepting their
Wow.
programs before I even had my OEN. So I got my OEN really late. It was almost like mid to late November. And as soon as you get your OEN, you can apply all the way up until January. So early applications, they'll talk about this a lot in the US alumni chat, but this is not really something that kind of is a big thing in Canada, especially for like Ontario universities. Some schools are an exception, so that goes into like researching your own programs. But a lot of early applications are done on a rolling basis, even if it says like early application. So as soon as I get my OEN, if I the next day I want to submit like my York U psychology thing, what they'll kind of do is they'll say, hey, we want to accept about 500 people into this program, and we think that everyone is going to have like the requirements is that you have above like a 90% GPA. But if you have above a 93%, we know automatically we're going to accept you to the program. So if you get, because all they get for most of the programs is your grade. So once they see your grade, they'll just send you an offer kind of right away if you're above your like the cutoff that they kind of envision for you at that point in time. As it gets later in the semester, the grade cutoffs kind of start dropping. So you'll see like the first rolling out, like the people who get them early might have a higher grades, and then as you go down, and do not be discouraged. I think I got my acceptance to like some of my universities like 10 days before it was due. Like they come all the way to the end. Like so
It
if
was
you like
scary, but I got
yeah,
them.
yeah. And so if you have friends that are like, "Oh, hey, like did you get into this?" and you're like, "No, like am I not going to get in? Is that it?" No, universities have like sectional dates. You can find a lot of this information on like different forums online. I wouldn't trust them fully, but sometimes they're a little helpful to know when about things are
Mhm.
getting coming out. But like if they have one in November and they have one in February and they have one in April, that's
Yeah.
kind of what they do. So just don't be discouraged, especially because it's not like continuously rolling. They have like dates and then it goes based on that. So don't worry about that. But that's kind of how early applications work. They're not really in Canada, but that if people talk about them, it's kind of not true depending on the program. So just be aware of that. And especially for programs with supplementary applications, there's no advantage to submitting, unlike the US, like to submitting it early rather than spending more time on it later. They're still going to look at everything kind of in the same way. But once again, look at your program. Don't trust everything I'm saying because it is program specific. So make sure you're researching your specific program and looking at early applications for those as well. This also is different for out of province schools since I didn't do a lot of research on those since I was only focused on in province ones. Sometimes out of province schools will have something that's more structured like a US application cycle. So just be aware of that as well. The OUAC deadline, January 15th. So right at the end, probably a week or two after your Christmas break is over, which is why Christmas break is a great time to kind of solidify everything and then submitting it before or after. So just be aware of that deadline, have it in your calendar nice and bold because you really cannot do anything after that happens. So make sure you get those in. Hearing back, the last day you can hear back from a university is May 29th, 2025 of this year, which is really late because if you look at the earliest decision day, is June 2nd. So as soon as June 2nd hits, you can press submit. What you want to look at is the latest decision day. This is not a set deadline in OUAC or anything. So you need to look at what the university actually says. For example, McGill, they gave out some of their offers on April 14th, and they say, hey, you have 30 days to accept this offer or not, or whatever. And then some applications don't even come out until after that, especially when you're applying to both American and Canadian. It's really hard. I know one of my friends like had to submit a deposit for like UBC before he got like a rejection acceptance wait list from University of Toronto, University of Waterloo. So just be aware that the latest decision day is not a date like the rest of these are, and it's really dependent on your offer of admission. So make sure you read the full offer, highlight that little date, put it in your calendar, because if you do miss it, that is unfortunate. So, yes. And look at the OUAC website for more information, as well as the OU info. They have all of these dates on it and more. They have the dates of all the university fairs and everything like that. So go check that out. And supplementary applications. So in Ontario, as I said before, there are really not a lot of programs that will have these supplementary applications. They're becoming a little more prevalent in some of like the baseline programs. For example, McMaster University Engineering, you need to do a video review, at least you did in my year, which is kind of like a video interview. They give you a prompt and like you go through that. But for this, that's again, like pay attention to the deadlines, go to the program website, and I recommend having like a giant document. So once you're going on OU info, get a spreadsheet, like make your little like your spreadsheet of what programs I'm going to apply to, what are the important dates, what do I need for this. So read all of the questions in your supplementary beforehand, and you can start making notes on your giant document. So for example, like McMaster Health Science supplementary application came out a month ago, a couple weeks ago, and it's not due until late February or early February in February. But you want to be brainstorming, even if you don't want to write the application, no pressure to start writing it, but you want to start like thinking about the questions that they're asking and what you want to write about. And that goes for all of the programs. Try not to leave them to the last minute. Plan ahead. Something that's helpful is like set your deadline on your calendar like 3 days beforehand. That way you have an extra 3 days to review your application and everything because these are really important and sometimes they do get overlooked, which is unfortunate because some schools do pay attention to supplementary applications over your grades. So that is especially for my program, McMaster Health Science. I know people that got rejected with like 99.5 GPA. So
Wow.
supplementary applications are just something you really, really, really want to be aware of if that program is something you really want to go into and gather all of your required information early. This is really important for American universities, and they will talk a lot about this. But if you're getting references, if you need an extracurricular list, if you need like verifiers for anything, you want to be doing this like at least like 2 weeks before your deadline. You want to be reaching out to your references way in advance of your deadline because if anything goes wrong and you don't have a reference, you can't apply. And also, look into like for example the medical program, I forget what it's called, the medical science program at Western. They have like a sub like stream, not a stream but like a sub kind of program that's called scholars elective. You needed references for that, you needed a supplementary application for that, and that's kind of just like a more niche thing that you can do underneath that gives you like guaranteed research and whatever. So those are types of things you want to be looking at when looking at your overall program and putting that all in a spreadsheet. So, so helpful to have everything in just one document that you can go through all the time. Extracurriculars, as you're going through at high school, especially if you're a grade 9 watching this, which go you, you're getting prepared. But even if you're in university and you're starting your first year of university, you already know your program, you're just watching this for fun. Make an extracurricular document. So if you have a document of the number of hours you spend doing an extracurricular, what is it about? And little tidbits, like memories, are super, super important for interviews, job interviews, everything. Like, for example, a common job interview question is like, hey, how do you deal with this type of conflict? Or like, how have you like not worked with a teammate well and like what happened from that? If, hey, you went to like your robotics team and you weren't working well with like your programming manager and you talk about how you use gracious professionalism to resolve that contact, that is something you want to write in your little extracurricular spreadsheet. So write that down because chances are the next time you go into a job interview, you're not going to remember that. But if you have it on a spreadsheet, it's really, really helpful. This can be a website as well if you're into making a website. But definitely have a document with a bunch of contact information is important too, because that
Mhm.
sometimes gets lost. So do make that. And that would be, if you're going to leave with anything, make that extracurricular spreadsheet, no
I
matter where
love
you
that
are.
idea.
Yes, it
It's
is
like
so, so, so
capturing all
helpful.
the things, and then when you go into these interviews where you're
Yep.
trying to make something like the supplementary application, you have a
Yep.
summary of everything you've done already. So you just have to
Yes.
copy, well, not essentially
Yeah.
copy paste, but fluff it up a
Yeah.
little bit. But yeah, I
Yeah.
love that idea. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and you can even have like a little summary page of your extracurricular doc if it's getting super long. For example, when you're going into your interview for McMaster Engineering on it's called like Katrina, it's called something weird, but like when you go into it and they ask you a question like why is the like what does the sky being blue mean to you? You're gonna like want to bring in your extracurriculars. That's such a random question, but once you like if you can bring into your extracurriculars into the most random questions ever, it gets marked so much higher than just talking about why the sky is blue. So if I was like,
Mhm.
oh my gosh, like the sky is blue and this means like melancholy. I was feeling melancholy when my team lost in like the first robotics finals. Like that is exactly what you do. And so having like going into an interview with a little checklist, hey, I want to talk about the time I did this at first robotics. I want to talk about this sports team that I'm a part of. I want to talk about this club that I'm a part of. And you just
Yeah.
go in with those three things and you just make sure I have to hit this point no matter what. I have to hit this point and you go into your interviews like that, I promise you, golden. You're going to be doing so much better off than if you don't have that little checklist.
That feels like very similar to going into a judging room with an FTC or
Yes,
FRC team, right? There's
for
like,
sure.
these are the points you want to hit. No matter what question they ask, you're going to answer it, but you're also going to add this other thing.
Yep,
So that's great. And I feel like whenever you get asked one of those questions, like, why is the sky blue or something like
yep,
that? Like, obviously, there's a scientific explanation. We all
yep,
know that. But the reason they're asking that odd question, a lot of the times, from what I've learned from my colleagues in my network, is they're trying to figure out what kind of person you are. Are you creative? Are you a fun person? Like, how are you answering that question? Are you just going like, I don't know? Because in engineering and a lot of these programs, you need to show that you're creative. That's kind of part of the career, right? Like, it's like creating new
yes.
things, similar to what you do on your first team. So, but absolutely love that idea. That's so great.
Yeah. For sure. So just, yep, have that. If you're gonna do anything, do that because it's really helpful. Because you could have no degree, and if you have this extracurricular spreadsheet with something you want to go into with a job interview for whatever job you want, that is more important. So just make sure you get that together. It's gonna help you so, so much, especially if you're applying to like post grad stuff after university or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, start thinking about responses early, as I said, and leave time to review and submit. Don't be like a lot of students who are like, hey, I'll submit this at 11:59 p.m. That's stressful. No one wants that. You're losing sleep. Submit it early, review it over. Make sure you look at what the program allows. Sometimes they don't actually allow you to get it reviewed by anyone else. If it doesn't say anything, or if it does allow, then feel free to have your English teacher review your essay. That is totally allowed if it doesn't say that. Just make sure you read the fine print because that is really, they are really strict about that. So, and get those reviewed early, use everything to your advantage. And yeah, supplementary applications, they're tough, they're annoying sometimes, but you'll get through them. You've got this. You're doing robotics, you can do it. So,
That's a huge thing already.
yeah.
Just one more point to like asking someone to review it or even references.
Hmm.
Please plan ahead with that. I know you mentioned that, Alexandra, is don't ask them the night before you need it. That you need to be respectful of those people's times, whether it's your teacher or your mentor or another adult in your life that's doing that for you. Make sure you're cognizant of the fact that they are taking time out of their lives to write
Yes.
something specifically about you to help you. So just make sure you're aware of that. Give them a deadline as well, or like, I need to submit this by November 1st. Could you get it to me a few days ahead of that, and give them a timeline? That way, if you need to go back and forth on, oh, do you mind adding this or whatever, you have time to do that. Just being really respectful of those people and thanking them so much for writing those references, because it does take time for them to do that, and it's not super easy to write one of those just right off the top of your head. So just be aware of that when you're thinking about this, like thinking ahead of time. If you know you're going to need two references, kind of think about who you want and maybe ask for two or three. Make sure that you have like maybe a backup if you have
Yes.
people in your life that you can get them from. So
For
yeah, just
sure.
wanted to add that point in there.
And if you're watching this and you're like, Jaylene and Alex, like, what is the timeline? I would say for references, give minimum 2 weeks. 2 weeks notice is great. If you can give them more, that's great. If you're giving them more than 2 weeks or 2 weeks notice, make sure you follow up. So about a week left to the deadline, a lot of teachers, especially if you're getting them from like your math teacher, your science teacher, or club leaders, and even your first robotics coaches, a lot of them are going to have more than one reference letter due, and they're going to
Yeah.
forget. I know so many people that didn't follow up with their mentors and it's like, hey, the night before, hey, it's not submitted, like what's going on? Make sure you follow
Mhm.
up, just say, hey, just a reminder that like the deadline is then, don't know if you've had a chance to get to it yet, just wanted to give you a reminder. That is perfectly okay. Please do
Oh yeah.
that. It'll help you, it'll help them. So yes, that is one more thing to note.
Yeah. Super helpful.
And then lastly, just ways to stay involved with first. So, no. You're gonna volunteering is such a big thing. They have the First Inspires website is where you can go to volunteer for kind of any event. First has the social media page gets updated by the youth council all the time with different events you can go to, different events you can volunteer. Go youth council, they're doing so good. And go onto the First Robotics Canada website. Even just like the main homepage, as you're scrolling down, you can see the different opportunities you can go to. Once you're in university, it does not stop. Yes, school's busy, but hey, who doesn't want to spend a weekend like refereeing robotics? And another thing is, I did FTC and all throughout high school. And then I got to university and I started volunteering at FRC events. Don't feel restricted to like stay in whatever kind of event you're in. We can use like help is needed and like appreciated so much anywhere. Um, and it's so much fun. You meet so many new people. I have so many friends that I just met at like a competition that I'm like, hey, like you just see all the time, building your network of people. It's awesome. It's so fun. Please volunteer. And look at all the different types. If like you don't want to do tournaments, there are other events. So keep an eye out for
Yep.
those as well. And an upcoming event, if you're interested, the North York FTC qualifier, run by my team, is really looking for technical roles like robot inspectors, referees, and judges. If you're seeing this before November 16th or next year, if they run the tournament again, email Maria and or just go through the First Inspires dashboard if you don't want to write up an email and apply for the event. She'll get back to you. And look at Robotics on Instagram, look at First Robotics Canada on Instagram. All this is out there. You can even look at like upcoming competition schedules. If North York is like way far away from you, but there's an event in Ottawa, go do that one. Like so it's really up and like please take a look. This is just an example of one of the events. But yes, we would love and appreciate your help. It's in about like a month, so and it's on Saturday, November 16th. So yes, any volunteers would be
Oh, that's
greatly
quick.
appreciated. Yeah. And
Awesome.
that is all I have.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alexandra. I do have one maybe tough question. I know that
Yeah.
we're talking all about how to
Mhm.
get into your dream school and your dream program, and setting yourself up for success with that. And one question I have, because this does happen for a lot of people, and I in my head I see it like, you see those, I know people do it on TikTok now where they're like open their admissions letter from American universities, from the Ivy League schools and whatever, and they
Mhm.
react like raw on TikTok or on Instagram Reels or whatever you're watching. But I want to know what you would say it to a friend or someone listening if they don't get into that school or that program that they had their heart set on. What would you
Yes.
say to them?
So you have your heart set on something. Honestly, I'm a firm believer of everything happens for a reason. So you don't get into that program, that was a good thing. You didn't want that program. You wanted like the program that you're going to decide with. Everything's going to work out for you, and success is not linear. So even the people you don't know, if they got into that program, maybe they're like at a different point, maybe they actually did worse than you in the end. So just like if you don't get in, it's not the end of the world. You will, if like your dream is to end up in like a specific career as an engineer or at a specific company, you will get there with hard work no matter what program you're in. A program is just a title. Like you can get into, for example, like medical school is so, especially in Canada. I know people that got in with like music degrees. Like you do not need to be pre-med. You do not need to be pre-law to do law. You kind of need to be an engineer to be an engineer, but like looking
That one, yes.
that one a little bit. But like honestly, like as Jaylene said earlier, like you can always transfer into a different program if you want to change your mind later on. And even if you didn't get your dream program in the first year, a lot of programs have the opportunity to get in the second year, even third year. So you can look out for that if it's still your dream to go into that program. Otherwise, take advantage of the program that you got into, take advantage of that program that you're in, look at the opportunities, don't feel like stay stuck on like the one program you didn't get into. It doesn't matter in the long run. You'll get where you want to get if that's still your goal, if you're driven enough to do that. So really like the program is not everything, and you will get there even if it's like bumpy, even if it's like a straight path. So don't overly stress about that.
That was the best answer. That was so good. Something else I will add to that is your dreams will change.
Mhm.
100%, they will change. I was fully convinced that I was going to be this like nano engineer with her own business, and my dream changed. And I'm currently working at First Canada, and that became my dream along that journey. So it's wild how much that'll change. And if, like you said, if you work hard, you will get there. The other thing that I want to point out, and today we focused all about universities, specifically in Ontario, touched a little bit on other provinces, but colleges are such a valuable
Oh, yes.
resource. They
Mhm.
are not to be undervalued in any way, shape, or form. I have three older brothers. Two of them are engineers. One went to Waterloo, mechanical engineering. He was the oldest. My other brother went to Conestoga College. They have the exact same degree. Took them the same amount of time. They both did co-op. So make sure you're looking at how you learn as an individual.
Oh yeah.
What, like all those things that Alexandra
Mhm.
touched on earlier. Look at colleges too. Colleges have bachelor programs available. Oftentimes you actually finish with a diploma and then you finish with a degree. So you get two certificates, which is super cool. So make sure you're being a little bit resourceful with the options. And college deadlines are after university deadlines. So
Yeah.
kind of with that diversification we were touching on with programs and with schools, go look at the college options. A lot of times they're less years, they're less expensive, and you can make money faster. So if you're
So true.
interested in engineering, but you're also interested in the skilled trades, that's totally okay. Apply to
Yeah.
both. You can see what
Mhm.
happens. You might end up deciding that the skilled trades is where you want to be. And then maybe in 3 years, you decide you want to go back to school for engineering. Just because you make a decision now does not mean it's permanent. You can change your mind, your dreams will change, your life will change, and you will get to where you want to go
Mhm.
eventually. I promise you, you will. If you keep working hard and you keep going in that direction, you will get there. I promise.
Yes. Oh, for sure. And this goes back to what we were talking about with university and college strength. So looking at what your college is really good at. I know some colleges are really, really good at like media arts, or
Yeah.
really, really good at like engineering and trades, like those areas as well. So looking into what your college is good at overall, as well as the program, because colleges do have a lot of hands-on learning. So if that's something you're really interested in, that is definitely like something you want to look at a lot. One of my friends is going to Humber College for her early childhood education degree, and she is loving it. She has like
Yeah.
so many opportunities, so much experience that she's getting out of college that you would typically never get in a university setting. So
Mhm.
just yes, do look at that. Look at they have college websites, they have college pages. Your guidance counselors have so many resources. Sometimes colleges can get lost among all the university talk, blah blah blah. Doesn't take a look at your college resources. I applied to like there are amazing like things that you want to look at and things that align with your goals. And they also open your eyes to some jobs that you probably have never heard of.
Mhm.
So especially when
100%.
you're looking at like college programs and you're thinking, especially in university, you're like, hey, I want to do like this. I want to be like an X-ray technologist, but I want to get like a life science degree at McMaster and do that. That's not how it works.
Mhm.
You actually need to go to college in order to do that. You need to go to college in order to be a paramedic. Like you kind of like so just
Yeah.
make sure you're looking at kind of the career type, and university degrees do not get you everywhere. So make sure definitely look
Mhm.
into your colleges as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to note another example. I have my best friend's an architect, and
Mhm.
she started with admissions to or submissions to, and this just shows that no path is linear. Like you had said, like success isn't linear,
Yeah.
and changing programs is totally cool. So she started by applying in grade 12 to all architecture programs,
Mhm.
and then ended up just doing she did visual arts at the university for her first year because she didn't get into the other architecture programs. She struggled with physics and some of the other courses, and that's normal. It's super normal to struggle in high
Oh yeah.
school. It's super normal to struggle
Oh
in
yeah.
university. And we talked about that in our last alumni corner about that navigating that transition from high school to university and college. So she did 1 year there. Then she went to the college for, I think, architecture technologist. So it means like you're doing more of the drafting work in the architecture office.
Mhm.
Then she went to the States for school and became an architect. So like started
Oh yeah.
university, went to college, went back to university. They work together. I know there's nursing programs that do like
Oh
2 years
yeah.
at the university, 2 years at the college. You're getting that hands-on experience at the college that you're getting not getting at the university. Likely, everyone's different,
Yeah.
but make sure you're looking at some of those programs that are working together as well and finding the one that's for you. So
Yeah.
don't get don't like think this is the end of the world. It's going to like let yourself feel those emotions, but you're going to pick yourself up because you're a fair student and you know what it feels like to lose matches and be really bummed, and then you're going to fix your robot and get back out there and win the next one. This is what we do.
Yep.
um Okay, that was a fantastic session with Alexandra. Thank you so much for sharing all of your tips and tricks and your journey. I feel like I learned so much, and I'm not in school anymore, but this was super duper helpful, and I'm so glad that we now have this resource for so many students to use for themselves in the next couple of years as they're navigating this.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
do want to transition now into the closing of our alumni corner for today. So just a couple of updates for everyone. Alexander did share, but make sure to follow us on Instagram and on our social media. We do have a TikTok as well, First Canada
Yes.
on TikTok. Super fun.
Yep.
So First Canada Alumni Corner, we have a couple episodes coming up this fall: admissions to American universities, scholarship application strategies. So we'll go over everything you need to know how to get the most scholarships possible, give you all the tips, and then
Yep.
you let us know how it goes. But I'm wishing you the best. And then volunteering within First as well. It's going to be a session that we run. If you are an alum, make sure to sign up for our alumni LinkedIn group, as well as firstroboticscanada.org/alum. We'll give you all of the resources to stay connected with us. And one last thing, on November 9th at Centennial College, we will have our annual Girls and Allies Youth Summit. We are
Woo
super
woo.
excited. There'll be engaging workshops, hands-on activities, thought-provoking discussions, and whether you want to meet new people or reconnect with friends, this summit offers the perfect opportunity to do all of that. So this year,
Yeah.
we're open to first and non-first students. So if you have a friend that always hears you talk about first, there's no doubt, bring them along. We would love to have them. It's open for anybody in high school this year. firstroboticscanada.org/youth summit is where you can register for that. That'll be on November 9th, 2024. So coming up
Yeah.
real quick, the week
Huge
before
plug. Huge
the,
plug for the youth summit. It
yeah,
like
it's super
all we
fun.
talked about throughout this, like you want connections. I got probably like 200 LinkedIn connections just from going to like one of these youth summits. All of the
Okay.
people that present there, everything, they are all like, hey, here's my LinkedIn. Hey, I went to this
Mm-hmm.
university or college. Hey, this is what I think about it. This is why this program's great. This is why this program's not so great. Amazing, amazing, amazing place if you wanted to get personal connections to all of this application stuff as well.
Yes, and we will be showing you how to set up your own LinkedIn account on that day. So if you don't have one yet, don't stress. We'll get you all set up and you can connect all day long. Okay, thank you so much to our special guest, Alexandra. It was such a great pleasure to have you here tonight and share your tips with our alumni and student community of First. That's all for tonight, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into First Canada Alumni Corner, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
See you. Bye.